Hello.
Hey Eddie, before I ask you how are you doing? Where are you calling from now? Are you in Warsaw? Are you anywhere else right now? And how are you doing?
Uh, I'm doing very good. Thank you so much. I'm calling from Warsaw. If my voice is too deep today, sorry about that. But some sickness just ahead, or I just had some issues. But yeah, Warsaw. Unfortunately, I can see autumn outside. So the question to you, Adis, how are you doing? From where are you calling from? And how was your summer?
The summer was great. Thank you very much. I'm actually calling in from a place that everybody in Europe knows, or a lot of people in Europe knows as the basically Disneyland of Germany, called in German Europa Park, in International Europa Park. But what a lot of people don't know, it is also a really great event and conference venue. Uh,
Hmm,
Europa Park can host conferences to up to 2 or 3 thousand people, including session rooms and everything. But I'm not here for any event business today. I'm actually with my family having fun, and with you also having fun in this webinar. Yeah, summer was good and long, and included some events. But I know it was the same with you. Tell me, what have you been doing the
exactly,
past 2 weeks?
exactly. So yeah, last week I was in Budapest at Experts Live Europe, uh, Microsoft Community Conference organized by our
Mhm.
lovely friend Isidora Katani. So perfect event, very nice location. And yeah, a lot of valuable knowledge. And I wasn't speaking, I wasn't organizing this time. I was a community reporter, so I had a chance to capture some videos with with speakers and attendees. So yeah,
I
interesting
had I
experience.
had I had inside information that event had no flows.
It was
There were no
perfect. It
flows in
was
that venue. It
perfect.
was perfect.
No, Good.
We'll come back to this. Was an inside joke. We are going to come to that joke within few minutes. I have been at few smaller events in September, and this is, by the way, the reason why we skipped September edition, because at this time we just could not cross our calendars at all. Either she was somewhere away or I was somewhere away. The largest one I have been, and the also an event without any flows, was Coolant Days in Croatia, which
Hmm.
is largest IT conference in Croatia. When everybody thinks about Croatia, almost everybody thinks about Adriatic coast, sunshine, islands, and beaches. This was actually
Hmm.
northeast of Croatia, the flatlands, and
Okay.
very different scenery, but good people, good conference, good parties, and the best kitchen in Croatia is there. So that was also really good. Organized also by a dear friend of ours, of both you and mine, Bernardin Katic. 1,000 people this time. They actually managed to break the number of 1,000 people this year for the first
That's
time,
a
and it
lot.
was
That's a
that
lot.
really was that really was a really nice experience there. Should we
Beautiful.
reveal? Should we reveal the
The
mystery
guest.
about the
Yeah.
event with no flows? I'm leaving it to you.
Exactly.
We have got
Exactly.
a guest with no flows.
Yes, exactly. This guest comes from Belgium, and this guest is Thomas Vochten. Thomas, our technology evangelist at Kronos Group, our good friend from Microsoft Community, key organizer of Collab Days Belgium, and also content team member of European Collaboration Summit. Welcome, Thomas.
Hello, good afternoon to you both. It's really nice to be here.
Hi,
Thanks for
Thomas.
having me.
Thank you, thank you.
You are very welcome. When we were talking about whom to have as a guest to talk about event platforms and their software, I actually was somehow all both Eddie, Margit, Anto, and me were like immediately, yeah, let's talk to Thomas. So you were like the very first choice for us to talk about this topic. There are reasons, and we know that you are going to help us to talk about event software with no flows, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely, and that was a little bit of the inside joke that you already revealed before I came on. We were talking about that same event that Edita just talked about, the event Experts Live last week, and I said that the event was without any flaws. That was my perspective. I guess it's a cultural difference in the UK or in the US. They probably say that the event was awesome. In the UK, they say that it's quite okay. And in Belgium, we say that it was without any flaws, but it all means the same. It was perfect. So yeah,
It was.
So, right, Thomas, tell us a bit about you and your background, both in the professional, in the IT part, your IT background, which is impressive. Um, I mean, I can say that I know Thomas for the past 10 plus years, or almost 15 now. This is the times goes. Um, but also, we are here basically more about the other side what Thomas is doing. Thomas is organizing the Collab Days Belgium, which is a premier Belgian community organized event about Microsoft technologies, which focuses solely on Microsoft technologies. And Thomas is doing it with few other people from Belgian community. But I also know Thomas as a content member of our own event, European Collaboration Summit. Where Thomas is content member for the past two years, something like that. Yeah, 2 years. So I'm going to be spending some time with Thomas in the next few months.
as
Looking
we
forward
usually
to
do.
it,
Yeah.
as we usually do. But Thomas, enough from my side. Tell us a bit more about what do you do generally and especially in relation to the events.
Yes. All right. So yeah, again, I'm Thomas. I'm from Belgium. In my, I would say, day job, I work for Kronos, which Edita already mentioned,
Mhm.
which is a very large Belgian group of IT companies where I'm working as a technology evangelist for all things Microsoft 365 and security. That's also my background. A long, long time ago, I was an Exchange and Active Directory administrator. Then I moved to SharePoint, and then I moved into everything Microsoft 365. So I've been around for in this industry for, I would say, 25 years, something like that. I'm also a Microsoft MVP, which basically means that I like talking about Microsoft technology a lot. I do a fair bit of traveling, mainly in Europe, to speak at various conferences. Well, a lot of conferences, I think. And in my free time, although I although I think my wife would qualify that a bit differently, um, I'm deeply involved with the worldwide Microsoft community. I run the Belgian Microsoft 365 user group, which is called BIWIG. We have been around for, I think, 20 years already. We do monthly
It's
meetings on that.
just please don't ask for me to pronounce it.
No, no, no. Belgian Information
Good,
Worker User Group, if you want.
good.
It is still English, but
Thomas
the
Group.
abbreviation is a bit. Well, I wouldn't call it a Thomas. We are five, so I wouldn't call it a Thomas Group. So we organize monthly meetings on Microsoft 365 and related topics, and we also have our yearly conference called Collab Days Belgium. Collab Days Belgium is carry on, I would say, the legacy of SharePoint Saturday Belgium, and we are at our, if I'm not mistaken, next October 19 will be our 14th edition, I think. So we've been
Wow.
doing this for quite some time already. And talking about collab days, I'm also, together with Addis and a few other people, one of the founding people of the Worldwide Collab Days initiative, where we provide community organizers who want to organize a Collab Days event with a website, with free tooling, and also marketing and a brand to run their event. And last but not least, like Adas already mentioned, I'm also a content team member for the Collab Summit in May in Düsseldorf. So deeply integrated into the Microsoft 365 ecosystem and community. That's in a nutshell what I'm doing.
Just now listening to you, I realize that all three of us are very much connected with the whole Collab Days story. You and Eddie as the direct organizers of the event. Eddie in Warsaw, you in Brussels, and me more in advisory role and in the support role. But it is fun. It's basically out of one funny idea. Few years ago came the largest network of community events in the world, which are focused on Microsoft 365 technologies, or generally Microsoft technologies, not only Microsoft 365. It's just funny how it happened and how well it happened. Even if we had the whole COVID issues in between and everything going on in between.
That's
Yeah, and it's
right.
funny to see that we started out with just a few events. And if we see at how Collab Days has grown over these last, is it already 4 years? Something like that. So we had events recently in Finland. We had events in Portugal. There is an event in South Africa coming up, in Boston, in Brussels, in Hungary, in Oslo, in Bremen, in another few other countries and cities. In Switzerland is a new one. So it is growing, and it's really nice to see that yeah, the community word is spreading.
That's right.
Nice.
May I just add few words from myself
Of
about
course.
your event, Thomas? As an organizer of Collab Days Poland, I always had in my mind like a Collab Days Belgium is my benchmark. And I have visited plenty of Collab Days in the past, SharePoint Saturdays, and Belgium was always the biggest and the well organized. So yeah, just chapeau bas and respect, because this is a real big conference, in fact.
Yeah, it is relatively big. I mean, it's a one-day free event. It's on a Saturday, which has its pros and its cons. But we usually attract around 350 people, which is again, the people from the UK would say not bad. I would say fantastic. Yeah, which is
and Americans would say
very
awesome.
good. And yeah, it is actually awesome. So yeah, we're doing quite well. But again, we're doing this for over 10 years already. So I wouldn't say it's routine for us. But yeah, after all these years, I think we know how to organize an event well. And then there's a lot of, and I don't have to tell you guys, there's a lot of things that come into play when you organize a conference. So, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, right? So that's
exactly, and
it's a good coincidence.
It's a good coincidence. Not really coincidence. That's actually one of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you, besides always being fun talking to you. And I hope that our viewers, later listeners, find this also funny. Can you do me a favor? I know that a few minutes ago, you took from your fridge a pin. Can you just take that pin and hold it to the camera? And we are going to explain.
I'm not sure if you can. I'm not sure if you can see it. So this is the user group. This is the user group logo, and this is my name. I'm not sure why I'm showing this, but
those were the speaker pins at Collab Days Belgium or SharePoint Saturday Belgium, like what, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I've got those myself. One of those myself. Those were the speaker versions. Why I ask you to do this? One of the topics we have set for today is how the need for event tech changes when the event grows. How all of this changes, how you need changes, and how not adapting might even slow you down in organizing the event. While this was really cool, and those pins are really a nice memory. But this was really cool years ago when it was still possible to do for Thomas and for a team to do those badges for the speakers and everything. Those are usually custom made, perfectly made. It is obviously somewhat different today with Cola Days Belgium. And this is what I want to talk to you, Thomas, is how did you, and then we are going to go into some specifics and some details for the different stuff, but what do you feel? How do you feel about changing the technology within Collab Days Belgium, with Collab Days Belgium growing to an event of 300 to an event of 350 people, what it is today? What adaptations, what changes did you need to make during the organization? What things did you need to organize different? It may be from the event tech, it can be the event software, but it can be things like catering. You do differently catering for 100 people, for 300 people, for 3,000 people. It's totally a different game, as we all know how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the scale at which we operate is not really comparable to that of the larger events like the European Collaboration Summit, but we do face a lot of the same challenges, although on a different level, in a different scale. And organizing an event is, no matter its size and no matter how experienced you are, requires a lot of efforts, and we are lucky that we have a small team that is involved, but there is also Collab Days organizers that are just 1 or 2 people. But yeah, there is so much to talk about. There is venue management, how you search for the sponsors, where you keep your sponsors. Do you have a list somewhere? Do you have an Excel sheet? Do you have we had a SharePoint list for the longest time. How do you manage your sponsor booths? How do you talk to the sponsor, managing the finances, opening a call for content to attract speakers, selecting those speakers, selling tickets, doing promotion. There are so many different things that you need to take into account when it comes to organizing an event and doing it well. But also on the day of the event, registration, I think we're coming back to that later also, and a lot more. So it can be super overwhelming and complicated. And if I look back at how we did it, and maybe for a small portion or still doing it, is a lot of different tools. For the longest time, we used Eventbrite, for example, for ticket sales registration. That was for a long time that was free. Now we have to pay, so it's a bit more complicated for us as a community event. We use MailChimp to send emails. We use a lot of Excel sheets, maybe still, but not as much as in the past. Excel, of course, everyone uses Excel. So a lot of different tools that we use to get all this together. And the problem is that the data is a bit around everywhere. So you're constantly working with exports and CSV files and importing and exporting, and it is a mess basically. And that is, for me, that's one of the bigger challenges of managing an event.
What I see being involved was in Collab Days and European Collaboration Summit, some things don't change. I would say that call for speakers and managing for call for speakers and speaker selection. Okay, speaker selection might take a bit more time. And publishing speakers and working with speakers doesn't really matter if your event is 200 people or 2,000 people or 20,000 people. It is pretty much coming down to the same work and the same workload you need to do. I don't know. How do you see that, Eddie? Because you also going through all the phases of all of that.
I first of all, I agree with everything what Thomas said, and especially the tools we use. We also use Eventbrite, we also use Mailchimp, and Excel and all that. So I fully agree that at some point it was really hard to handle all the things, assuming that we work as a team, right? Because if you're like one man, one woman organizer, then you are more or less able to organize and manage all of those things. But if at some point different people, they have different responsibilities, but at the end we want to have one big picture, that might be the struggle. And now going to your question, Adis, could you repeat the question, because I got lost?
I'm sorry. My question was basically, I'll come back to the question, but what I'm trying to say here, there are certain disciplines in event management which will not change with the size. Speaker management, call for speakers, agenda building is basically a poster example of that. It's the same if you do it for event of 200 people or event of 2,000 people. The workflow, you might need a bit more time to select speakers because you will probably have more submissions. But in general, that's not going. But even for that, I'm pretty sure that the number of the speaker submission for Collab Days Belgium and Collab Summit, there is a difference, but I think the difference is not 10 times. Maybe Thomas will get 400 submissions and we will get 800.
Yeah,
but
it's not 10 times, and I can see that from both sides. That's
exactly.
true. So it's I would say it's setting up a system to have those registrations, to have the submissions, and they will automatically come in. And of course, like you say, selecting is a bit different for a larger event because you also have more sessions. But the act of configuring the speaker submissions process is it's the same.
But I would dare to say the same about attendee registration. It really doesn't matter if you are 200 people event or 2,000 people event or 3,000 people event. Attendee registration process, regardless does it involve ticket sales or just simple registration forms, is the same. There is no really much different in the process. But there is a difference. Where I would dare to say there's a huge difference. Is the whole check-in and registration on the day of the event process. It's a totally different. I would not even say it's a different league. It's a different sport. If you need to organize a check-in of 100 people or check-in of 2,000 people, it all comes down with the size, with the growth of that. It all comes down on decreasing the amount of time per registration per single attendee. And while it might look or sound very cold and very not unpersonal, what I'm saying now, it basically needs to be done when you need to get 3,000 people checked in and registered with the event within an hour. Sorry. So this is where the game changes totally. And I think Thomas, you have seen that. On your own event in the past few years, and how was technology changing for you? So this is where I'm passing ball back to you to tell us a bit more. How was it going for the Collab Days Belgium?
Yeah, what we did in the past was, so with all these different systems, again, I talked about exports. So we exported the list of people who registered. We printed those all on etiquettes. The day before, we put them all on the different badges that we bought. And on the day itself, we tried to sort them, lay them on a table somewhere, and our registration staff had to try to find your badge and hand them out to you, and then you were registered. The problem with that approach is that you don't know who's actually there. You still, and also from I would say, from a reporting perspective, there's still a lot of badges left on the table at the end of the day. So you have to sort them out, see who was there, who wasn't there. So it's it works, but it's not scalable. And especially when you talk about an hour, we have, I would say, we have about half an hour for all those registrations, and it's not sustainable. So you really need an integrated process, so you know who's in, who's out, who's not there, etc. Also, coming up before the registration, things like refunds and everything. It's a mess. And
it is, especially when there's money involved. You just mentioned refunds. It can be a mess in that.
Yeah, case. And our event is free, but still people try to unregister, which is basically the same as a refund, but without money involved, which makes it easier. I know, but it's once we switch to our new system, no surprise, is run events. Everything is much more seamless. I mean, also from a user perspective, I guess the self-service capabilities of the platform is also huge. Also, when doing registration, actually on site, and I guess you will talk about those capabilities soon.
We will.
So there is a potential for much less manual labor from the registration desk involved. So that makes our life a lot easier, and also the people who are standing at that registration desk in the morning makes their life much easier.
If I may take a minute or two of our time, while you were talking, I was trying to remember, because we started European Collaboration Summit back with the old name in 2012, and the difference, we have always been selling tickets. That was always a paid event. We were not taking. It was still community driven, so we were not really driving prices high, but it was European Collaboration Summit was always a paid event. And since the first 3 editions have been in Croatia, we have been forced back then due to the Croatian laws and the Croatian, especially fiscalization regulations. So each sale needs to be immediately registered with the Croatian tax offices, real time. So we have been using a Croatian system called Entrio, which is pretty much similar to what Eventbrite does now. And then we would be download everything as you said in Excel. Since it was only like 300 people at the first event, you will be joking now. I have been using Microsoft Access. Don't laugh.
Sorry.
I have basically made a report in Microsoft Access which look like badge paper, and I would print all those pages on level printer, on the laser printer, and that was working fine. But as you said, it was a lot of manual work with that time. At some point of time, we have switched. When we moved to Germany, we have switched to Eventbrite and Eventbrite badging capacities, which were suboptimal, but then again, we had the same issues with the invoices. With Eventbrite, you need to issue invoices in your own system, whatever it is. That means for each ticket or order with multiple tickets, somebody would need to sit down and to actually type the invoice and to send it somewhere. First time now with badging, we switched to the when we started with Run Events, the first year we also printed the badges. I think that was 2021. That was the last year when we had pre-printed badges, and that was the year where Edita noticed and came to me telling me, these the people who are working on the registration, they don't know alphabet. I'm not joking. Those were students. They were not proficient in alphabet, and Edita was completely like with the shock on the face. They don't. So when you can't say Thomas Vochten, they would get the V, but the combination between V and O, it would be already too much. So each time somebody would come, they would not start searching from the. I would say O is somewhere just half after the middle in the alphabet. So I would start looking from the half. No, they would start from the beginning and looking where the O comes next. And that's when we said we are not doing that. So for the from the 2023, it was the first time when we did the on-site printing, on-site registration without pre-printed badges, still with hosted registration check-in stations. And in 2024, we moved fully to the self-service registration check-in. And this is which made a complete difference, where we managed to get down the registration per person down to 8 seconds. And we were really with altogether 12 self-service registration stations and 4 manned registration stations. We managed to register to check in 3,000 people in 1 hour without having any queues. Yeah, this was for me the revelation to say, okay, this works.
Yeah, I also noticed it when I came into the venue. It's like, okay, where are the queues? And there were none. So that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
That really was a pretty amazing. But I mean, I will never forget this Edita's completely shocked stare on the face, like they don't know alphabet. Right, Eddie?
Well,
I hope they're not listening to this.
Because you're under pressure. You have 3,000 people. You have 3,000 people to be registered, and unfortunately, we are human beings, and very often people are joining the conference 5 minutes before keynote, and suddenly everybody wants to register. So of course, there is a lot of pressure and big stress, and yeah, you can even forget about the alphabet.
We have a question. We have a question from audience from Catherine. She's asking like, what software have you been using for system? We have been using run.events, and that's an integrated software platform which doesn't only allow the attendee registrations and badging and the automated check-in, but also much more that we want to talk about. And this is actually my next question. Is again, from our own experience, and I'm going to pass both to you, Eddie, and to Thomas to say that I was in preparation for this webinar. I was thinking about patchwork of tools that we have been using prior to run events. We have been using either Entrio or Eventbrite for ticketing back in the times. As I said, none of those tools will allow you with any will allow you actually any analytics to do with that. You will be just registration. So I was exporting those tools in spreadsheets and importing those in Access and doing a quick reports in Access to know how much people have registered, from which country, from which interest, which industry, which whatever. I was being the Access wizard there. Thomas, stop laughing. I know you're laughing yourself, but actually, Access really works on this. We have been using Sessionize for managing speakers and calls for speakers. Sessionize is a great tool, but that was another tool in the toolbox. We have been using self-made SharePoint application for managing sponsors and managing our own sponsors. We have been using HubSpot for communications. We have been using for badge printing different techniques. I've been using Access, or I was just exporting data and importing it as a mail merge in either in Adobe or Affinity and creating badges for that. It was so many tools that we have been using around, and there were two issues with that. At some point of time, that was becoming a bottleneck. I was the only one who knew where is what. And if there is only one person who knows where is what, that one person is a bottleneck. Whatever we want. Then there was so many data copying, which means data was never actual. The moment you export data from the registration system to import it into anything else, that moment that the data is not actual anymore, because you have 5 more registrations in the process. And C, we all 3 of us are living in EU and we know what GDPR means. That moment when you take your USB stick and you bring it to professional badge printer, say print my badges, and that USB stick contains your all attendee data. This is all but not GDPR compliant, as we are all pretty much aware of. I would say that the moment we passed the number of 500 people, and that happened in 2017, this patchwork of tools which we have using before was a real showstopper for us. We couldn't grow. We couldn't make it better. Of course, the change was not so easy, but it had to be done. Of course, you would say, okay, I need to trust those tools to handle these processes for me on this data. But better to trust the tools than everything depends on me, which was the case before that. And how was it on your side, Eddie? With starting with SharePoint Saturday Warsaw and switching to
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have had similar tools, Eventbrite for registration tickets, Sessionize for call for speakers, MailChimp at that times to send just newsletters and any communication. Of course, challenging with updating the list of responders and all that. We also had paid campaigns across social media without, knowing if we are really spending money which is worth to be spent to promote our event. A lot of GDPR issues. I remember that event was run under my company name, and I'm self-employed, and I really felt the big pressure that what if GDPR will break at some point, what kind of consequences will be on me. And of course, the last struggle, we haven't had any mobile app. So basically, we're relying on the website where our event was presented. So every attendee, every time, had to go to the website, check the agenda, and all that. It was really messy. I felt that pressure that, okay, here is Excel for sponsors, here's Excel for some spendings, here is a tool for communication. It was really, really challenging before we moved to run events, where basically now everything is all together, plus some extra functionalities like mobile app and all that. And what about you, Thomas? I'm curious if you have had even more.
Yeah, it's a quite similar story. We managed sponsors in a SharePoint list, I think.
Yeah, this is what you
And
said.
we
Yeah.
have a form that sponsors can fill in to, and
All
that
right.
ends up in a SharePoint list, and then we know that they want to sponsor. And well, I mean, also if you look at sponsorships, the whole I would call it, we don't have real contracts, but I would say contract management, like registering a sponsor, having the right data of that sponsor. That was always
Mm-hmm.
a challenge. We had a few Excel files with sponsor contact, and people changed jobs, obviously, and now we use Run Events CRM, which is one central location. Everyone looks at the same data, which is brilliant. We can reuse that information for every event that we organize, which is also fantastic. And the mobile app, we were always fortunate that we had in our organizing team, we had a few very good and capable developers. But what we did each year was create a separate website for our event with the agenda that we pulled in from Sessionize or another system where we also had our own feedback system. We haven't talked about
All
feedback yet,
right.
but
Good
that was
point.
also something that
Forms.
we or my colleagues in the team coded themselves, which is effort, and they like coding. The developers, that's not a problem. But I mean, you have to maintain this. It changes every time. You need to change the branding manually every year, etc. Register a new domain name, which we also did for every
Mm-hmm.
event and stuff like that. So we were using more or less the same tools with maybe a few extra, and again, lots of Excel. I would say I still use Excel for a few things which are not covered by Run Events. For example, yeah, I don't know, managing the speaker dinner, managing the speaker accommodation, stuff like that. So, I mean, other topics that we haven't really talked about yet. So I'm still using Excel, but all the rest, more or less, is in Run Events, and it's all nicely integrated, and that's a big change for us.
Nice
Yeah.
here. Talking about sponsor, because I'm obviously the product owner of Run Events and calling the shots what we're going to develop first or next. And in our first event in 2012, we had two sponsors, and I knew both of them. I had their mobile numbers of both of them, and I think their mobile numbers still haven't changed. And I'm still very thankful to both of them. And one of them is still our sponsor. The other company is unfortunately not in the market anymore. Not because of us. They are not there. But now we've got 75 sponsors. As Thomas said, it is impossible to track that all in head or in Excel and who came, who left, who changed the job, who is not in that anymore, who should you mail on, who is just working on the sponsor side to on preparation of the event and who is actually coming to the event. So usually one first group of the people are coming from the marketing department, the second part of the people are coming from the sales department, etc., etc. For me, the fact that we need to build in sponsor and exhibitor CRM within Run Events was a no-brainer, because that's one part that a lot of people are struggling with. And I'm making an announcement here. Very soon we are going to have call for sponsors form. So even that call for sponsors form, Thomas, you will not have to do it separately. That will be possible to do it automatically to Run Events. But even the whole sponsor management, the whole sponsor's life cycle, from the first contact to negotiations to contract management, can for me it was just a no-brainer. We need to have this in Run Events because they are such an important part of this ecosystem. And we talk about everything else and forget about people who actually come there to make connections and to be on that one. The similar is with mobile app. The first time we had mobile app was in Mainz, where we had 800 people. We had paid a company which really specialized just in mobile app. I remember we paid 8,000 euros for that mobile app, and it was worth it. I'm not crying about that money or regretting paying that money, but it was a really difficult process to get the attendee data, which we had from different systems, Eventbrite at that time, into that mobile app. There were so many support requests. How do I log into mobile app? Because I had a different system for registration. Now I forgot how did I manage, which email address did I use there, which email address should I use, or which invitation code should I use for the mobile app. At some point of time, our colleague back then, Matthias Eining, sent everybody a special, unique invitation code for the mobile app, and then those codes were distributed to the people who shouldn't be there. It was a mess. When you say yes, but from some certain amount of the attendees, you need to have mobile app. Well, don't get me wrong. With 300 people, especially in situation, but as you, Thomas, said, that you have a whole community outside of the event, which is pretty much, you know that your 300 people are going to come. And you know which is your, more or less, you know which is your base, you know which are the people in Belgium who are interested in those technologies and who are the most probably going to be in Brussels with us in October. And it's only October, it's only 2 weeks from now. Doesn't
don't
matter.
tell me.
But yeah, and still it is good to have the mobile app. But when you grow, let's say over 500 or 600, where people don't know each other anymore, mobile app is becoming pretty much the main vehicle of people connecting to each other, finding who might be interested for them to speak, finding which sponsors are there, or for sponsors finding which attendee are possibly of interest for them. And I think there is one point where you simply need to have mobile app for the event.
Yeah, because just an agenda is not sufficient enough anymore. We used to have just an agenda, and that's nice because we have like 36 sessions. So there's 6 sessions at the same time going on at our event. So that's a lot for a relatively small event. But just having an agenda is not enough. People need to go to sponsors, visit their website. We haven't talked about gamification yet. That also plays a role in the app, stuff like that. People go to sponsors, they can check into the sponsor booth and stuff like that, and sponsors are able to get connections. That is also quite important. So that is also something that was not possible before, and which also plays a huge role.
And communications.
Exactly. I just want to say this even faster.
Yeah, so I remember how it was in the old times. So if there was any agenda, changes because something has happened, I remember those piece of papers, being stick to the door to every room, and then okay, what now? What we should do? Should we print out new piece of paper, or should we just use the pencil and change something in that? And here we can send right this person no and in a mobile app we can send push notifications. So first of all, inform people that something is happening, agenda changes, any raffle is happening, lunch break is ending in 5 minutes, or whatever you wish to communicate. And that was the game changer for us in the last 2 editions when we were using Run Events. We simply know that everybody will be informed thanks to the mobile app.
There was an anecdote. I think Thomas is aware of this anecdote. I think even you also, Eddie. Last year, 2 years ago in Düsseldorf, because in Run Events people can actually favorite their session, basically subscribe to which session they are going to go, and for each session room how many places have you got. And you as a content team, obviously you try your best to figure out which session is going to attract the most attendees and going to place those sessions in the larger rooms. It's always the same. We all need that. At some point of time, we see that one session, which we put in 100 people room, has like 300 favorites in the session, 300 hearts. From a speaker that we would never guess he will attract 300 people. That's an internal joke. He's a great speaker. But we needed to switch on site 10 minutes before the session. We need to switch the rooms for that session and another session which had less favorites than we have been expecting in advance. So what happened? It took us 5 seconds to switch the rooms for those 2 sessions. So everybody in the mobile app would get immediately the real time data there. Plus, we have been sending push notifications, as Eddie just mentioned. Hey, for the reasons A and B, we have switched rooms for those 2 sessions, and we had exactly 0 people on a 3,000 people event who came to the wrong session. So this is I think where when an event grows, this becomes really important thing to talk about. And also, I said with under 300 people, you basically know who is going to come. You know, Edita people in Poland who are going to be there. especially with Bivuh. Bivuh? I will never learn how to pronounce
It
to
is
pronounce it
okay
properly.
enough.
Okay, it's
The
okay
group.
enough. The group. You
The
know how
user
many
group.
people have you got? But the thing is, with larger events, you do have a core of your people. I would say with us, we have a core of like 500 to 600 people who come each year, and for whom we are pretty sure that they are going to be there each year. But the rest of the people, the rest 2,000 people, when we take away the sponsors and speakers, so we have like 2,000 people for whom we don't know who they are, whom we need to sell the tickets to them. So marketing is becoming an important part of that. And when you say marketing for events, I hear so many times, just put some money on Facebook. When I hear just put
It
some money on
doesn't work.
Facebook, I'm like,
Yeah,
fast
I
forward,
mean,
we are not giving any money to Facebook because
no.
Facebook just doesn't work for events anymore. But we do put money on different tools. We do put money on LinkedIn, which works. We do put money on Google. But how do you know what does work? So basically, one of the things which was important for us in run events was like say, okay, we do the whole what we call precision marketing tracking. Now, this will be interesting only for the marketers. The rest of you can just imagine what I'm doing. We actually track all those UTM markers from the very from the ads that we are paying for, through the registration process to the final purchasing of ticket. So for each ticket in run events, if it has been sold to any of the marketing channels, it can include newsletters, that can include the paid ads, and that can include something that we are going to mention in a few seconds, our own internal marketing tool in run events. We know through which channel that ticket has been sold. Because not knowing where your tickets come, that's not marketing, that's guessing. And this is where you say, yeah, just put some money on Facebook. This is for me one of the things where I see as a mission on run events, to actually help people sell out their events and to know for them what works, what doesn't. Ditch the marketing campaigns that don't work, put more money in those that do work. And I'm going to say here something that probably not much people expect. Do you know what works? Putting ads on Reddit and Quora.
Yeah, I think I told you before. I came across the ad on Reddit and said, "Oh, I know these people."
It totally works.
Yeah,
it totally works. And the budgets that you put on Reddit and Quora are much smaller than the budgets that you put on Facebook or especially LinkedIn. But LinkedIn does work. Facebook, we stopped using it basically.
Yeah, you briefly talked about Facebook, and I agree that Facebook is not the medium, or not anymore. Maybe it wasn't ever the best medium to do that. We primarily use LinkedIn and X, or Twitter. I refuse to say X usually, but Twitter and LinkedIn. Well, it's also something that makes people smile when I talk about influencer marketing or influencers. But in our case, I mean, our speakers are why our attendees are there. They want to see the interesting content. They want to hear the speakers that they're interested in, and they do have an influence on because they all have their own individual audience, worldwide or local, and that's why we're also leveraging our speakers a great deal, actually, maybe more even than we ourselves do our marketing to attract people to the event, and that actually works.
But then again, look at this. How would you do it traditionally? You would say, okay, I've got, you said 36 speakers for Collab Days Belgium. In our case, is for the whole ECS, is we speak about 220 altogether. So you need to create 220 or 36 those cards, which are nicely designed in Photoshop, in whatever you are doing that. If you have time and the 36 speakers, you'll probably send to each speaker that card and say, hey, this is your card, please use to promote it on our social media. If you have 220, you're probably going to dump them in some cloud folder, say, hey, find your card and use it to promote in our social media. So now switch the gear and be a speaker, because I know you are in different events. Unify, okay, this is my card. If I'm lucky, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it in email. If I'm not lucky, I need to search to some cloud folder to find which one is for me. Then I need to correct maybe my data if they got it wrong. If not, it's fine. Then I need to think to which social media I'm going to publish it, and I'm going to think. I need to think about text, accompanying text they're going to put beside that. At that point, you are lost.
Yeah, and nice
Actually,
graphic.
I will even.
Yeah.
I would even say that even 3 steps before you were also like, I'm going to do that later. I've got no time for that now. And you know when that later is? Probably never.
Yeah.
So we had basically, we were lucky if 15 to 20% of the speaker would take part in campaign. So one thing we did with run events, and I'm going just to leave this to Eddie because she did it beautifully for Collab Day also the last year, is to actually make this to our influencer. And the one thing I wouldn't agree, not only speakers are the influencers. You have got sponsors because they are coming for their customers, because they know that some of their customers and users are going to be there. So this is their announcing their customers. They're going to be there, hoping they will come again and maybe do more business or whatever. And you also have your existing attendees. If they publish, if they announce their attendance of your conference, it's their colleagues, their friends, who are also your potential attendees, because this is this peer-to-peer marketing in that case. So I would even argue we've got 3 types of influencers for the marketing at the event. Why not make it a 2-click work thing for them to actually announce their presence and to sell tickets? I'm going to just leave it there and leave it to Eddie. We have sold 110 tickets this year. I'm always saying last year, for the European, for the ECS to the Run Events own marketing tool, which is called influencer marketing, with an average ticket price of 500 euros. So those were the 50,000 solid euros of income through tickets with $0 CPA. Eddie, I knew you did that for Warsaw. Can you tell us about your experiences?
Yes, yeah, sure. Sure, of course. We did our own POC because we were not sure if this influencer marketing can also work for smaller event, because in European collaborations, I mean, there's a huge amount of people. But we gave a try, and we saw that our campaign, which was mostly dedicated as first for attendees to bring some buzz, because speakers are mostly international, and for us, the event, which is happening in Poland, we are attracting mostly the local communities. So we did that just for I don't want to say that all of attendees are Polish, but the vast majority comes from Poland, and we did that, and it worked. And I remember very first tickets sold through influencer campaign, and it was amazing, because first time I saw the impact that we don't have to invest in any stupid paid campaigns again, or we don't have to publish info about our conference in any groups which we don't know if are still alive, or that's since a while, because free events, so we also don't want to spend a lot of money to promote the event. And that was really, really nice and very heart touching experience for myself. So Thomas, you still have time to use this functionality from Run Events. I highly recommend.
Yeah, because we haven't yet. Yes, yeah.
So
we're relying on the manual influencer marketing for now, but yeah, we will definitely change that.
And last but not least, we are coming to the close, and we are going to slowly to wrap this up. But last but not least, those are the cost points. You can say that paying for a professional event platform does bring costs, which is of course Run Events is actually free for the community events. We won't just support communities, but it's a commercial platform. But I have been in preparation for this webinar. I have been putting together our costs in 2019, which was the last time we did it the old way. That was just before COVID happened and everything. We have put 12,000. We have paid 12,000 euros for the Eventbrite fees. That's quite some. We have paid 8,000 euros to Vova for the mobile app, which did not work for us at all. That was just like most of the people didn't even use it because they didn't know how to get in there from there. Sessionize was the most friendly one, was 500 euros. We paid 2,400 euros for a HubSpot for managing all the communications and everything. It was the cheapest price. It didn't even have everything that we that HubSpot subscription didn't even have everything which we needed, but we couldn't afford more back in the time, and we paid around 3,000 to 4,000 euros for different social campaigns, mainly on Facebook and Google back in those times. Altogether, we paid 26,000 euros for the different tools, which we needed. Remember, it was still my tool for SharePoint, which I wrote as a developer for a SharePoint list. And even most of those which we have been talking right now, like self-service check-in, like marketing, like sponsor management, just wasn't even there. We had 2,000 people back then in 2019. For 2,000 people, run events would cost 13,500 euros, almost a double less. And if you circle back now, as we said that using the run events influencer campaigns, we actually made 50,000 euros in sales with zero euros cost per acquisition for those people. We are actually saving money. We halved our costs. It shouldn't always be about cost, but there's always this perception, if I go with less, if I pay some percentage to whatever ticketing app it is, if I keep my data in spreadsheet, if I use this or that and then do the patchwork, you will actually come later with paying more money than if you would do it differently. The biggest issue I see there is actually this fear of change. I don't know how you see. How do you see that? I know that Dita had some discussions in her team about this fear of change. I know that it went a bit easier in Belgium. Eddie, can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh yeah, fear of change is always there, and anyhow, we need this 21 days repeating the same thing to get some habit. This is what experts are saying, but unfortunately I see kind of resistance to change because we have all of these tools, we know how they work, so there is no need to change because then we have to invest some time. But first of all, we are saving money and we're investing time, and on the top of that we don't have to take responsibility to again be this one man or one woman event organizer. So it also brings less stress in a long distance running event scenario. So of course resistance is there, but yeah, it's just a matter to understand what are the benefits, not only related with the money but also with the entire well-being in the larger context. This is my opinion. Maybe Thomas wants to add something.
Thomas is silent. Thomas is silent now. He doesn't know what to say here.
I'm not often silent, but in this case, I'm a little bit again because we have not really invested that much time into these capabilities yet. No. But we should, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, but except of marketing, as much I know you. Except for the marketing, I mean, you guys are using everything else.
Yeah, okay. I mean, from an automated perspective, we're doing it the manual way, and it's also not carefully planned or anything. It's basically the process basically goes like, oh, I think it's time to do something again, and then I create a LinkedIn and Twitter post, and then I send it. That's basically how it works now. So there is no really plan, let alone an automated system or something for the speakers to automatically use and track. So tracking is non-existent. for us right now. So that's exactly why I'm so interested in that capability. But we still need to spend some time on that.
Okay, people,
Good. Do we
it's
have any
time to.
questions? Yeah.
We had just some nice comments, people liking our conversation, but the only
Oh,
question was
wonderful.
basically from Catherine, which we already answered. We have Bulan saying this was a great conversation. Thank you, Bulan. Thank you for being there. As always, within 2-3 weeks, this you will be able to find this webinar on all our social channels, but it's also going to be post-processed and published as In Control podcast, which you can find on all podcast platforms and everything where you would expect to find it. Wrapping up, any final thoughts? I would say it all really matters on size of event, of your exact needs, of your wishes. Lot of that I would say expect. Do you have a data wizard in your organization team which loves their Excels, their spreadsheets and everything, or you love using Access for making those reports, or love creating their own session feedback forms like you mentioned, Thomas, or if you don't have such a data wizard or IT wizard in your organization team, then you may be more easier prone to go for tools that actually help you do stuff and actually save you money. And I would say that one thing we mentioned a few times, but I cannot stress how important it is the whole data safety, data security, especially personal data security. Moment you start copying data between tools back and forth, you have an issue.
Well said.
Yep, I agree. I mean, if you look at how you organize an event, the amount of tools that you use, you can make your life much easier by making a few very good deliberate choices, and that's what I urge everyone to do. Consolidate.
Less is more.
Sound like an IT
Less is
manager,
more.
and I am not, but okay.
All right.
Eddie, are you
So
closing this one?
I can close. Thank you. Thank you so much, Thomas, for joining us. It was a pleasure to have this conversation with you and with you, Adis. Thank you, everybody who are listening us. Thank you for your comments. And yeah, see you next time. Yeah, follow our social media and we will
Yeah.
keep you posted.
And Thomas, see you in 2 weeks.
I will definitely see you in 2 weeks in Brussels. All
Ciao.
right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.